I want to talk to you about spray foam, the product that divides people more than almost any other building material. Some people love it, some people run a mile from it. And in many cases in the UK, it can stop your house from being sold simply because mortgage companies are very nervous about lending money on homes which have spray foam insulation. I want to explain to you in as simple terms as possible what spray foam is, what it does, and why it's causing all this bad feeling. So the first thing to say is you probably think you know what spray foam is. Oh yeah, that stuff you get in a can and you can squirt all over the place. You get it from the builders merchants. No, it's not the same stuff. Professionally applied spray foam is different. Now, spray foam isn't actually the best insulator known to man. Something like a sheet of PIR, something like Celotex, Kingspan, that kind of thing, is a better insulator than spray foam. But where spray foam wins over those boards that you cut into the space in between the rafters, there are no air gaps with spray foam. Applied properly, it fills all those little nooks and crannies, and that means that you've got an airtight building. You've got no drafts, so immediately it's a warmer building, even disregarding the insulation value of the foam. Now, there are two distinct types of spray foam. We've got a closed cell spray foam and we've got an open cell spray foam. The closed cell spray foam is what it suggests. Nothing can get through. Airborne moisture can't get through. Air can't get through. But the open cell spray foam is rather like an aero bar or honeycomb. It's got all these tiny little ways for the airborne moisture to migrate its way through to the outside. What you might call a breathable foam. But it's what happens to that moisture once it gets to the cold side of the insulation that causes all the problems. Because if that moisture can escape, if you've got a breather membrane or something there and it's working properly and the moisture can escape, or you've got no membrane at all, then that's fine because the moisture will find its way to the outside and everything in the garden or in your roof is lovely. But what happens when you've got an open cell spray foam and that moisture is migrating through and then it's trapped by an impervious layer such as a roofing felt, sarking felt, a black stuff brittle that doesn't allow any moisture to percolate through. That's what we call a non-breathable membrane, and there the moisture will just get trapped in a cold place. And moisture trapped in a cold place will start to produce rot, fungus, mould and all the nasty things that you don't want in your roof. Neither type, closed cell or open cell, is necessarily a bad thing. It really just depends on what you're applying it to, what your building is like, and whether you've got the right product for your particular building. And this is where the trouble starts, because a good installer, a good salesperson, will survey the building properly, decide what kind of roof membrane you've got, if any, and then decide which kind of spray foam you need and whether it's even a good idea for your property. You don't hear of many salespeople walking away saying, I would advise against having spray foam, but in some cases that would be the best advice they could give. So it's important to say that spray foam does not create moisture. Moisture is there because we're breathing, we're washing, we're cooking, and we're just creating moisture all the time. And that moisture is carried on warm air, and the warmer the air, the more moisture it will carry. We also know warm air rises, so a fair amount of that airborne moisture will finish up in the roof space, whether you've got a loft conversion or whether you've got an empty space that you keep your Christmas decorations in. So when you've got moisture, you need ventilation, and this is often where the problems arise, because if you don't get rid of that moisture early on when you're creating it through some kind of extraction system, a lot of it will just migrate up. So then you've got to get rid of it when it's in the loft space. And if it can get through the open celled spray foam and escape without any hindrance, then that's absolutely fine. But if it can't, it's hanging about in there looking for a cold spot or waiting till the temperature in the house drops at night, then it will condense. So why are surveyors so nervous about spray foam? Well, it's simply that they can't see what's going on behind it. They can't just simply by looking at it tell whether it's a closed cell or an open cell, and if they cut a hole in it to see whether there's any moisture trapped behind it, that is an invasive survey. So they tend not to do that. They tend to just say, because I can't see, I can't say. And because they can't say, they won't sign off the house as being worth the money that the mortgage company is intending to lend on it. So before you consider spray foam, you need to know what kind of roof you've got, what kind of roof membrane you've got, whether you've got a membrane at all, and how it's going to be applied. And I personally would advise against spraying foam directly onto a breather membrane, even if you've got one, because in doing that you can close up all those lovely little pores. And if you think about a tea bag and you've just coated it in some kind of polyurethane, why am I talking about tea bags? Bad analogy. You get the idea, you've clogged up the pores. Now, if you don't have a membrane at all, if your tiles are visible or your slates are visible, that means that if the moisture does get through the spray foam, i.e. it's open-celled spray foam, the moisture can then escape under the tiles, under the slates and away. Problem there is that people very often have spray foam applied under the tiles to keep the tiles on the roof. If they've got slip slates or tiles, the roof is in bad repair, then the salesman may talk them into having spray foam, not because of the insulation, but because it will hold the roof together. Now, it may do the trick, it may be wonderful, but if you need to have any work done on that roof, if you need it repaired, or eventually you need it to be replaced because the slates or tiles become porous, then removing that roof is a lot more expensive and a lot more problematic. And I know some roofing companies who just run away from it, say, I don't want to know, sorry. So another important thing to know is that there is a difference between a warm roof and a cold roof. A cold roof relies on ventilation on the other side of the insulation to take the moisture away. A warm roof means that all the moisture is trapped within the heated space of the house. Whichever you've got, if you've got moisture that's travelling through an open-celled foam and it's escaping absolutely fine. If it's being trapped, that's a problem. But if you've got moisture that's being trapped inside the building because you've got a closed cell foam, it's in the warm space, but eventually it's got to go somewhere. So it's essential to think about ventilation as part of the equation. Ventilation is the non-negotiable bit, and I would recommend something like a mechanical ventilation heat recovery system where you've got fans. Now, this doesn't have to be all ducts and tubes going all through your house and your loft. It could simply be individual fans which remove the airborne moisture but recover some of the heat. But if you can afford that mechanical ventilation system, it's a great way to go, simply because it will reintroduce fresh air into the house. If you've just got extractor fans and it's not bringing any air into the house from anywhere, you're all sealed up, you've got double glazing and everything else, those extractor fans can be pulling on a vacuum and they're not that effective at all. So you need air coming in and you need air going out. And that can be expensive because you're heating air and then you're throwing it out to the outside to keep the pigeons warm. Now, there's one more thing to discuss, and that is the noise reduction that often occurs when you have spray foam insulation put into your home. People love it because all those little gaps where airborne sounds will just creep through and you'd hear traffic noise, people shouting in the streets. Suddenly it's all closed up and you're not getting those sounds at all. But the other problem is that it sometimes enhances certain sounds because it locks the roof structure together in such a way that it makes it less rigid, and therefore any noise that hits that roof is transmitted through the roof timbers down into the walls and into the building. So very often what you'll hear is a low-level hum. Now, you might also have noticed that there are DIY kits of spray foam, and they seem very tempting because you think, okay, I'll buy one of these kits which comprises a couple of cylinders and a spray gun. I'll do the job myself. Now, I've got a friend who takes vans and converts them into camper vans, and he regularly uses DIY kits to spray the whole of the inside of the van before he puts the lining on to insulate the van. And he's been doing this for years. He knows how to use those kits. He knows what climatic conditions you need to use them, because if they're not mixed properly or they're not applied in the right humidity, then they can shrink back, and then you can get problems because obviously you then got gaps around the foam. So I would strongly advise against anybody who has no experience of spraying foam from picking up one of those kits and having a go themselves, because it could turn out to be a very expensive mistake. So is spray foam ever a good idea? Well, if you're not intending to sell your house and you want a short, quick fix, then maybe it's a good thing to do to get some insulation and to cut down on the drafts. But if you're looking to sell your house anytime in the future, then I would say no. Probably a bad idea, because if nothing else, it will slow down the whole transaction. So I said I would be fair, but I know that people like to know. They think you're a fence sitter. They say, come on, Rog, would you use it or not? My personal opinion is I wouldn't. Not because I dislike it, because I have known many cases where people have taken the spray foam out and they found there's absolutely nothing wrong with the roof and they could have left it in there. So spray foam is a great product, but it's not very forgiving, and if you're going to have it done, you really need to have that roof inspected, you need to have it documented, you need to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, so that if there's any problem in the future, you have the documentation. And the further thing I'd say is that if you do have it done, have it insured, underwritten by an insurance company, not the company doing it, because they very often go out of business. So get the guarantee underwritten, so if there is any problem in the future, you've got somebody to go back on, and you're not looking at a company that went out of business 5 years ago. I'm Roger Bisbee. Come back and see me soon, and if you've got anything to add to this debate, if you've got spray foam, or you've had it taken out, or you've never put it in, or you know somebody who has, then all that feedback is useful to other people to stop them making the same mistakes.